Live, local, late breaking. This is WMBF News at 4.
Ahead on your only local news at 4, Cameron Crowe joins us live from the scene of an officer-involved shooting, what led up to that incident, and what one witness saw just outside his home. That's just moments away. Plus, one of the area's most dangerous intersections will soon see improvements aimed at making it safer for you. Catherine Phillips joins us live with a look at those plans.
And Friday brings increasing chances for showers and thunderstorms. Future radar coming up in my first alert forecast.
Thanks for being here at 4 o'clock. I'm Meredith Heeline. First this afternoon, we do start with a breaking news update. SLED is investigating an officer-involved shooting in a residential area just outside of downtown Darlington. WMBF News reporter Cameron Crowe is live in the neighborhood. Cameron, you've learned some new information since WMBF News at noon.
Yeah, Meredith, this morning SLED responded to an officer-involved shooting on Trexler Avenue just off of North Main Street in Darlington. This morning, Darlington County Sheriff's deputies, troopers with South Carolina Highway Patrol, and SLED officers were on the scene. In the center of Trexler Avenue was the site of a crash between a sheriff's office patrol car and a black SUV. According to Captain Capers of the Darlington County Sheriff's Office, the crash happened as the suspect was trying to leave the scene. No officers were injured in the shooting, but one officer did receive minor injuries during the crash. Roger Kuntz lives about 20 yards from where the shooting and crash happened. Kuntz says he was laying in bed around 9 this morning when he heard the sounds of gunfire. He says he went outside and saw the crash and a number of deputies on the scene.
There were probably maybe 5 or 6 cops on the scene at the moment of. Okay, by the time that car crashed, there were several officers on the scene.
At this time, details are limited on what led up to the shooting. We will continue to provide updates as soon as more information is made available. Reporting live in Darlington, I'm Cameron Crowe, WMBF News.
In another breaking news update, 2 people are behind bars in connection to a deadly shooting and a hit and run. Here's video from the scene along Highway 52 near Interstate 95 in Florence County. When deputies arrived around 5 this morning, they realized the victim had a gunshot wound. A person was taken to the hospital but did not survive. Hours later, officials announced 2 arrests, but the names of those suspects and their charges have not yet been released. WMBF News will continue to update you as we learn more. Happening now, a live look inside a President Trump event in Charlotte during his visit to the Queen City. White House officials say the president is expected to sign an executive order aimed at helping Americans with pre-existing conditions with their health care coverage. They say it's the first order in American history to make it the policy of the United States to protect those with pre-existing conditions. We'll monitor this event and bring you live updates. His opponent in the November presidential election, former Vice President Joe Biden, also visited Charlotte yesterday, and part of his visit included a Black Economic Summit.
Well, starting to see some changes to the forecast here as we work our way towards the end of the week. Clouds thickening up out there this afternoon, and notice first alert Doppler radar keeping us dry across our areas. We head through the evening and dinner time. However, already raining back across the upstate, Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, dealing with some of that wet weather. And notice future radar starts to bring that to the east overnight tonight. We could see a stray shower developing overnight, although most of that activity will be light and just an isolated shower as we work our way towards daybreak on Friday. However, keep an eye on this, kind of the tail end of the remnants of beta. They spread into our areas. We head towards late tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening for increasing chances of showers. Some heavier downpours and even a strong storm or 2 will be possible late in the day tomorrow. I'll take a closer look at that in your full weekend forecast coming up.
A man is behind bars this afternoon in connection to his child's death. Deputies were called to a shooting on Biddy Court in Marion County around 1:20 this morning, where they found a shooting victim. They later died from their injuries. The name of neither the suspect or the victim has been released. We don't know yet the specific charges in this case. Stay with us on air and online as we learn more. A body was found this morning in the Pawleys Island area. The Georgetown County Sheriff's Office says a woman walking her dog found the body at the end of Georgieville Community Road. That's near a line of woods that you see here. The coroner's office says there are no signs of foul play, and it's likely the man died within the last 24 hours. Authorities are still working to identify who the man is. An autopsy is scheduled. We'll be sure to keep you updated. A person has been killed when their vehicle ran off the road early this morning. Authorities say the crash happened around 12:30 on Browns Ferry Loop. That's near Antioch Loop. That's in Georgetown County. South Carolina Highway Patrol says a Chevrolet Express was heading south when it ran off the road and hit a tree. That driver was trapped and died at the scene. Their name has not yet been released. Meanwhile, a car chase in Georgetown County ended with the suspect's car submerged in water. Williamsburg County deputies were chasing a person after a burglary suspect on Highway 521 early this morning when the chase entered Georgetown County just before 4 this morning. Spike strips deployed by deputies disabled 3 of the suspect's tires before authorities lost sight of that car. The Dodge Ram, which was reported stolen several days ago, was later found in the Black River near Pump House Landing with no one inside. Deputies say they are still looking for that suspect. The city of Louisville, Kentucky is still on edge after 2 police officers were shot during an overnight clash with protesters. Police, the National Guard, and federal agents are all stepping up their presence in the wake of the grand jury decision regarding the death of Breonna Taylor. The core of downtown Louisville is locked down, and that's where we find Jay Gray this afternoon with the latest.
Mourners gather like they have for the better part of 6 months in a city boarded up, locked down, and on edge. After chaos overnight, clashes between protesters and law enforcement.
Officer down, right there. Officer down.
You can hear gunfire. In this streaming police video from the area where 2 Louisville police officers were shot, their injuries serious, but not life-threatening.
Last night's situation could have been so much worse for our officers and for the people who were protesting when the gunfire rang out.
There continues to be an uneasy tension here, the day after a grand jury announced no Louisville police officer will be directly charged in the death of Breonna Taylor.
Her family, as do I, think these proceedings were a sham proceeding that did not give Breonna Taylor a voice.
The decision to only charge former Louisville officer Brett Hankinson with wanton endangerment for spraying shots into a neighboring apartment, sparking outrage across the country. Thousands pouring into the streets, frustrated, emotional, and at times violent.
Violence is not the answer, and destruction is not the answer. Public safety and the work for racial equity and justice can and must coexist.
Many in this community also angry and anxious about what comes next. Jay Gray, NBC News, Louisville.
Hundreds of accidents later, improvements are coming to one of the most dangerous intersections in Horry County. That's Highway 501 and East Cox Ferry Road. WMBF News reporter Catherine Phillips is live now in Conway. Catherine, what's being done then to make this intersection safer?
Well, Meredith, actually just in the past hour, there were actually 2 little fender benders right here as I'm getting ready to come on the air tonight. One over here on Highway 501 and one before somebody turned left into East Cox Ferry Road. Now, despite that, there have already been some improvements being made to this intersection. Now, if you drive on Highway 501 frequently, you might have noticed crews were out changing the lights into these new ones that you can see here. But there's a lot more upgrades to come for this project. Now, the Department of Transportation says that there has been, the city of Conway, says that from in 2017, 2018, and 2019, each year there were over 100 accidents at the intersection of Highway 501 and Cox Ferry Road. Now, the new traffic lights are really just one step to make this intersection safer. Now, the South Carolina Department of Transportation says one of the most important upgrades is to fix the way drivers turn at the intersection. Now, take a look at this map from DOT showing the future changes. DOT says they're going to add a right turn lane into East Cox Ferry Road from 501. They're also going to fix the left turn lane from 501 heading north onto West Cox Ferry. Now, the project manager, Stacy Johnson, says this should help drivers make it through the intersection.
So like the left turn lane, we offset it. One, it improves sight distance, so it allows anyone taking that left to better see the oncoming traffic. And then 2, it allows for a shorter crossover distance to get onto West Cox Ferry.
Now, DOT is also planning some other improvements as well. They're going to be adding more signs to remind drivers not to turn right on red, as well as signs that say that drivers should wait for the left turn arrow. Meredith.
All right, Catherine, now the big question many people are asking is when will all of this be done? You know, what's the timeline? We got to know.
Yeah, it's the big question here, Meredith. And part of this project is actually part of the Ride 3 program. And what they're going to be doing with that is they're actually going to be widening on both sides of the road here into 3 lanes. And that's going to start at Gardner-Lacey and go all the way up until the road meets with Highway 544. Now, according to the Ride 3 dashboard, that construction is set to start in the 2024 year. Meredith.
All right, 4 more years. Catherine Phillips live in Conway with that report. DHEC says 60 more people have died from the coronavirus in South Carolina. Those new deaths bring the total number of people who have died from the virus in our state to 3,097 people. 664 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 bring that total to more than 139,000 people testing positive. 9.5% of the test results reported today are positive. For a close look at those numbers, including how many cases are being reported where you live, you can find it in this story on WMBFnews.com. South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette was on Talk 94.5 this morning for her weekly interview on the Liz Callaway Show. There are news partners. Among many topics, including the firefighter cancer support bill we told you about on WMBF News at 4 yesterday. The Lieutenant Governor shared more details about her experience battling COVID-19.
It started out for me with a really bad headache, and so I thought, wow, I haven't had a migraine in a long time, but that's what this kind of feels like. And it was by the end of the day, I started, feeling a little more achy and knew that it was something more than a headache. But, I was very fortunate in that I am in really good health, and I have no underlying health condition, so I did not impact me like it does some, and some people that I know real well.
You can hear more from the Lieutenant Governor's interview throughout the evening right here on WMBF News. Wildfires continue to rage across the West Coast. Ahead at 4, see why some communities remain in danger even after the flames on the surface appear to be gone. Many people out west are still unable to return to their homes because of the wildfires. Many towns like Detroit, Oregon, for instance, remain under a level 3 evacuation order. And even in some places where it may look like the fire was out on the surface, officials say flames continue to burn down below. Bridget Chavez explains the danger.
But the reason why people can't come out here is these smolders are continuing on because they're catching root systems. And they're just going to keep burning and burning.
Firefighter Don Tesdell shot this video to show people why some areas in Detroit and Idana are still under level 3 evacuations. Fires still burning hot under the surface.
Not cool. You do not want to fall in that. This is everywhere.
Candy Ramos lives in Idana. She still can't go home and understands it's dangerous, but says it's hard not being able to check on things.
We're all just wanting to go home and clean our fridges out. So we're just hoping that they can give us that opportunity because, like I said, there's lots of rotting food out there. And then our animals are out there not getting any food or water. And that's all we really want to do is just go and do that.
To get to her house in Idana, she has to drive through Detroit.
We're still trying to save houses. There's still plenty we're saving up here. And it's still plenty dangerous.
The fires burning, like this one, are burning at temperatures above 1,000 degrees.
You've got a 1,200 degree fire going on right next to somebody's house. And this can just spread.
Now the certified most accurate forecast from First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold.
Well, we're going to finish up the work week in a much different way compared to how we started it. Increasing humidity already out there right now. And as we head through the day tomorrow, the chances for downpours and even a couple of thunderstorms going to be increasing. Notice early tomorrow morning, just an outside chance at 20%. But by the time we get towards dinner time, towards sunset especially, we'll start to boost those storm chances all the way up to 70%. All thanks to the remnant moisture from Beta that's going to be headed our way. In fact, you can still see a little bit of a circulation there from Beta's leftovers here currently in Mississippi, helping to draw in plenty of moisture, scattered showers and thunderstorms across the deep south this afternoon. And notice we may get an isolated shower overnight tonight, but as you're heading out early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., most of us are going to be dry, although there may be a couple of showers, especially north and west of Interstate 95. But as we head through the day, especially getting into the afternoon, Notice here by 3 o'clock, we'll start to see some of those showers and storms getting a bit closer. And then we'll start to watch the bulk of that activity move into our area during the evening hours. And it could very well be after sunset before the beaches start to get in on some of that action. But also notice some fairly heavy downpours and could be some stronger storms in there. Certainly not expecting the activity like we saw last week with Sally with those isolated tornadoes, but still, we do have a level 1 severe weather threat in place for late in the day tomorrow. Some gustier winds and a very small but non-zero tornado threat. So that's something we'll watch for as we head through the day on Friday, especially tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. But things improve heading into the weekend. So we'll take up future radar again Friday evening. Showers and storms linger through the night, but notice by Saturday morning, just an isolated shower left over. And then we start to see drier air returning by Saturday afternoon. So it's a warm weekend. We'll have those temperatures up into the lower 80s. Just a stray shower possible as we work our way into the day on Sunday.
President Trump was at the Supreme Court today honoring the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Meanwhile, lawmakers from both parties are reacting after the president wouldn't commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses November's election. Alice Barr reports from Washington.
Paying his respects to the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg today, President Trump was greeted by chants of "Vote him out." Amid growing outrage over his insistence on filling her seat before the election. Adding to the controversy today, the president's refusal to commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses the election. President Trump again claiming without evidence that a surge in mail-in ballots will lead to widespread fraud.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and you'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation.
Furious reaction from Democrats.
Get rid of the ballots. Just let him stay in power for whatever illicit way he chooses to do so. That's what he's saying.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell leading a string of prominent Republicans pushing back against the president's words, insisting there will be an orderly transition. President Trump also acknowledging he wants to fill Justice Ginsburg's open seat before the election, which would cement a conservative majority, because he expects the election results to be challenged in the Supreme Court. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
More states across the country are seeing a new resurgence in COVID-19 cases. Straight ahead, why national health experts say this trend is so concerning as we head into the fall. At least 22 states around the country are now reporting a rise in the number of new coronavirus cases. That's up from just 9 states last week. Some of the top experts on the president's coronavirus task force are warning that young adults can spread the virus despite recent claims to the contrary. Jim Acosta reports.
At a hearing in the Senate, top doctors on the Trump administration's coronavirus task force gave lawmakers a dose of straight talk, straying repeatedly from the president's recent misleading comments on COVID-19.
A majority of our nation, more than 90% of the population, remains susceptible. It's imperative that these young adults recognize that even though they are unlikely to get seriously ill from this virus, they are major contributors to the spread of COVID-19 in our country at this time.
Contrast that comment from Centers for Disease Control Director Dr. Robert Redfield with Mr. Trump's whopper earlier this week that young adults are not affected by the virus.
Take your hat off to the young because they have a hell of an immune system, but it affects virtually nobody. It's an amazing thing.
Redfield also defied Trump world talking points when he ripped into former Health and Human Services spokesman Michael Caputo, who accused CDC scientists of betraying their country.
I want to add, how disappointed I have been personally when people at HHS made comments that they felt that there was a deep state down at CDC.
Dr. Anthony Fauci clashed with Kentucky GOP Senator Rand Paul, who mocked the infectious diseases experts' advocacy for stringent social distancing measures.
Senator, I'd be happy
at a different time to sit down and go over detail. You've said a lot of different things.
You've lauded New York for their policy. New York had the highest death rate in the world. How could we possibly be jumping up and down and saying, oh, Governor Cuomo did a great job?
Well, you misconstrued that, Senator, and you've done that repetitively in the past.
Sources tell CNN Task Force Coordinator Dr. Deborah Birx is so distressed over what she sees as her diminished role in the COVID-19 response that she's uncertain whether she wants to remain in her current role. According to sources close to Birx, she believes the president now prefers to listen to controversial task force doctor Scott Atlas, who not only has no expertise in infectious diseases, but has flirted with the idea of herd immunity. A Birx friend said of Atlas, the president has found somebody who matches what he wants to believe, adding, there is no doubt that Birx feels that her role has been diminished. A White House official pushed back on that, saying President Trump relies on the advice and counsel of all of his top health officials every day, and any suggestion that their role is being diminished is just false. The president continues to flout task force guidelines on the virus at his rallies, where supporters aren't social distancing, and Mr. Trump ridicules Democrat Joe Biden for wearing a mask.
He feels good about the mask. I wonder, in the debate, it'll be him and I on the stage. Is he going to walk in with a mask?
The president may be gaining ground on Biden as a new poll finds Mr. Trump pulling even in Arizona and perhaps inching ahead in Florida. The widow of the late Arizona Senator John McCain says she's endorsing Biden.
Come with me. Let's vote for Joe Biden. Our country needs a new beginning. We need someone with character, integrity, and empathy as well.
Dr. Deborah Birx has been absent from the White House briefing room in recent weeks. Officials say she's spending her time right now traveling to states that are seeing a spike in new cases.
Well, starting to see some clouds thickening up out there this afternoon. It also feels a bit different than the past couple of days. It is warmer. Temperatures right now in the mid-70s, also a bit more humid. That humidity giving rise to rising rain chances tomorrow. Your full forecast next at 4:30.
Live, local, late breaking. This is WMBF News at 4:30.
Straight ahead, one group is working to make treatment easier for those battling opioid addictions. Patrick Wood explains why organizers say it's badly needed. And a new hospital could soon be coming to help increase care in the Grand Strand. Kate Merriman explains what you can do to help move those plans forward. Thanks for being here at 4:30 this Thursday afternoon. I'm Myrtle Beach. I think it's safe to say most of us have been enjoying the mild weather this week as we had the first day of fall this week. But our First Alert weather team is preparing you for some rain that might be on the way going to the weekend. Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold explains in his certified most accurate forecast.
Yeah, kind of a big forecast turnaround here, Meredith, as we head into the day tomorrow. The cooler weather starting to warm up. It's starting to turn more humid and rain is on the way. You're certainly going to notice those changes heading into the overnight hours tonight. Not nearly as cool as the past couple of nights. In fact, some of us probably cranking the AC back on tonight. 67 for the PD, 70. That's going to be it for overnight temperatures here across the Grand Strand as that moisture starts to move back in. Now, as we head into the day on Friday, the humidity continues to move in. That brings with it increasing chances for showers and storms. Through the morning commute, just an outside chance. But as we get towards dinner time, towards sunset, that's when we bring in that chance for those downpours and some storms. And some of those could be a little bit on the strong side. Not expecting anything like what we saw from the remnants of Sally last Thursday. But notice future radar tomorrow evening showing some of those stronger storms with heavy rain and maybe some gusty winds at time. I'll take a closer look at that potential as well as your full weekend forecast in just a few minutes.
Right now, we're waiting for President Donald Trump to speak in Charlotte. He's expected to speak about health care any moment now. During his visit to the Queen City, White House officials say he'll sign an executive order to help Americans with pre-existing conditions with their health care coverage. We'll share some of his remarks with you live here on the air as well as on WMBFnews.com. Charlotte also received a visit from Democratic presidential candidate Vice President Joe Biden yesterday. During his trip, Biden spoke to black small business owners as part of his campaign's Black Economic Summit. The visits to the battleground state proof of its importance in this November's election. As the opioid epidemic continues to affect so many people in Horry County, one organization is working to expand treatment services for addicts. Patrick Lloyd shows us the plans in the works for Shoreline Behavioral Health Services.
Shoreline bought this patch of land right here behind me, right next door to its existing building on Wise Road in Conway. Leaders here at Shoreline hope that this will be the site for a new building in the future to expand their services. Executive Director of Shoreline Behavioral Health Services, John Coffin, says over the years they've seen a massive increase in the need for treatment services. They treated about 600 people in 2007, and now every year between 2,200 and 2,500 clients come in. They've also had to increase their staff from 35 people to about 80. As a result of the bigger staff, some of the rooms in Shoreline's building were converted from break rooms to offices, and it's becoming a tighter fit. So the plan as of now is to have a multi-phase project for at least one more building. Overall, Coffin says the whole project could cost around $8 million, although since this is still early, that number could go up or down. Coffin says it's become clear the time to expand has arrived.
A lot of our business was DUI education. It still is, but we have huge growth in basically difficult to manage chronic disease in the form of substance use disorders of various types, the most concerning one being opioid use disorder.
The plans are still very much in the early stages, so there's no clear timetable for when construction might start or finish, but Coffin hopes to have shovels in the ground at least by summer of 2021. Reporting in Horry County, Patrick Lloyd, WMBF News.
Tidelands Health wants to add a new hospital to keep up with the growing population in Horry County, but the hospital system needs your help to make it possible. WMBF News Today reporter Kate Merriman explains what they're asking you to do as they wait for state approval.
Tidelands intends to submit a certificate of need with SCDHEC for state approval to build the hospital. The process includes people like you sending a letter to state leaders about why the hospital is needed. Tidelands says the goal of the hospital is to provide easily accessible health care to everyone. The Carolina Bays Hospital would be located at the interchange of Highway 31 and 707 in the Socastee area. The plan includes 36 beds, an emergency department, 4 operating suites, diagnostic, imaging, and even laboratory services. The vice president of Tidelands Health says the hospital will help keep people from traveling for treatment.
The tremendous growth of population that's occurred and more projected population growth. The location we've chosen is well served by 31 and 707, so there's good roadway access. So it's really, the concept in healthcare is taking healthcare services to the community so that the community doesn't have to drive as far to you. And so it's this idea of neighborhood hospital, neighborhood care, so that we're bringing that emergency room, bringing those healthcare services right where people live and where they spend their time.
The Carolina Bays Hospital could expand more than just healthcare. For more information about the economic impact Tidelands Health believes it could have down the line, head over to WMBFnews.com. In Horry County, Kate Merriman, WMBF News.
Despite new guidelines in the age of COVID, many Americans say they still plan on celebrating Halloween this year. Closer look at that story in just 3 minutes. This breaking news just in, we just received new details on the shooting involving deputies in Darlington County. SLED officials say 2 people were shot in that incident this morning just outside of downtown Darlington. An update sent out a short time ago says deputies were serving an arrest warrant when a confrontation began. Officials say that's when a man was shot by law enforcement. A second person was also shot. No word on their conditions right now. A deputy has also been hurt. This happened when officials say the suspects tried to leave the scene and crashed into a sheriff's office car. WMBF News reporter Cameron Crowe spoke with a neighbor who heard the incident this morning. He'll have a live report ahead on WMBF News at 5. More than 148 million American adults plan to take part in Halloween-related activities this year. That's according to an annual survey done by the National Retail Federation. And despite new guidelines released by the CDC this week urging people to celebrate safely, Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
It used to be the time of year masks were worn for fun, not necessity. But COVID-19 will change Halloween this year. If you're trying to figure out how to celebrate, the CDC has new guidelines on that, saying many traditional Halloween activities can spread the virus. The agency's asking people to avoid doing things it deems high risk, including traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating, indoor costume parties, hay rides, and haunted houses with people who aren't members of your household. Some activities on the moderate risk list include one-way trick-or-treating, where goodie bags are lined up at a distance for families to grab and go. Having a small group outdoor open-air costume parade where people are distanced more than 6 feet apart. Visiting pumpkin patches or orchards with hand sanitizer, social distancing, and masks. But if you want to celebrate and face the lowest risk, the CDC offers these alternatives to traditional Halloween. Carving or decorating pumpkins with your family or outside at a safe distance with neighbors or friends. Decorating where you live. Doing a Halloween scavenger hunt, holding a virtual Halloween costume contest, or a movie night with your family. The agency says these will help keep you in the holiday spirit and help slow the spread of COVID. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
This Sunday night on NBC, two future Hall of Fame quarterbacks take center stage as Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints host Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Football night in America's team of Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy break down the big game.
Sunday Night Football heads down to New Orleans as the Green Bay Packers will visit the Saints. Always a terrific matchup. Two teams that have been perennials for the last decade in the NFC chase. And let's focus on Green Bay here for a second, because it's always Aaron Rodgers. But maybe it's Aaron Jones sharing equal billing in that offense right now, Tony.
No, it really is. And Rodgers, I know, is happy to get that running game going again. And then he's got some other weapons in the passing game, too. It's not just Devontae Adams, but they're really doing a great job spreading the ball around.
Yeah, Green Bay Packers, year 2 with LaFleur as the head coach. He and Aaron Rodgers seem to be on the same page. A couple of good wins to get started. We'll see how they do down in New Orleans without the noise in the dome. Saints and Packers, Sunday Night Football. Football Night in America starts it at 7 Eastern Time.
And First Alert Doppler radar, all clear and dry here on this Thursday afternoon. Likely to be different, though, 24 hours from now. Watching downpours moving in. Future radar coming up next in my First Alert forecast.
Coronavirus-related restrictions at many hospitals are making it hard for patients' loved ones to spend time with them during their treatments. That lack of closeness makes being sick even harder than usual. But families around the world are finding workarounds. One father in Fort Worth, Texas, came up with a creative and entertaining way to connect with his son while the boy receives chemotherapy. Ken Molestina shares this story.
3, here we go, ready?
These kinds of dance moves are usually inspired by loud music. But for Chuck Yielding, acknowledgement from his son is all he really needs.
We get out here and just try to communicate, best we can.
14-year-old Aiden Yielding is receiving chemo treatment at Cook Children's in Fort Worth for leukemia. Because of COVID-19 rules, only one parent is allowed inside. And since Aiden's mom works at the hospital, she was the clear choice. Even clearer, though, is the fact that Dad wasn't going to be too far away. So every Tuesday, during breaks in between treatment, Chuck finds the nearest window to his son, and he dances for him.
It's funny. It's watching him figure out all what he's gonna do. Cheers me up sometimes.
And that's the goal.
Just anything to bring his spirits up a little bit, let him know that he's not alone and we're with him.
When he can muster enough strength, Aiden dances back, mirroring his father's disco moves from 3 stories up.
It makes me feel like he's there, and I don't know, he's just a funny guy.
Lori Yielding is Aiden's mom.
Family is everything. Togetherness is everything. But even when you can't be together and a whole family as a unit, you find ways that you can.
So come rain, shine, or even extreme heat,
put a chair out and sit and wait.
This dad isn't going anywhere.
It's fun. Look, they're waving, hey buddy!
Because that reaction is priceless, and it proves this family
We find ways to keep the energy flowing through.
will be dancing to their own beat forever.
Now, the certified most accurate forecast from First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold.
Well, we've got a much more active weather pattern developing as we head into Friday, especially the second half of the day. Things still quiet on First Alert Doppler radar right now, but let's show you future radar. Starting off at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, could be a couple of spotty showers, especially once you get well inland north and west of I-95. The rest of us just cloudy and mild to start the day on Friday. And we'll see just a slow and gradual increase in those rain chances as we head towards midday. Notice as we stop the clock here at lunchtime, 1 or 2 spotty showers in a couple of spots. Most of us are still dry, but things start to change as we head towards mid-afternoon. Notice by 3 o'clock, still generally dry on the beaches, but those downpours start increasing across the PD. And then eventually as we head towards sunset and dinner time, we start to see that activity working its way down towards the Grand Strand. And a couple of these storms could be a bit on the strong side. Not expecting anything like what we had last Thursday with the remnants of Sally, but we do have a level 1 severe weather threat in place here across our area. Talk about primarily some gusty winds, but a very small but non-zero risk of an isolated tornado heading into tomorrow evening. So that's something we'll be keeping a close eye on. Rainfall totals still holding on to most of us seeing on average around an inch, give or take here or there. If you happen to get under some of those heavier downpours, certainly closer to 2 inches will be possible. But again, not the 4 to 6 that we saw last week. And we're also going to keep it quite warm. Temperatures tomorrow hit 80. We're into the low 80s through the weekend into early next week. However, already starting to see signs of our next big cold front that arrives late next week. That may give us another round of overnight temperatures dropping down into the 40s. So your Myrtle Beach 7-day forecast shows those rain chances up to 70% late in the day tomorrow. Some of those showers continue into early on Saturday, then clearing skies by the afternoon. And look at that warmth all the way through early next week into the lower 80s each day. Just an isolated shower possible, but there comes that cooler weather starting to arrive by the end of next week. Florence, turning stormy for you late in the day tomorrow, but improving conditions through the day Saturday. Temperatures climbing all the way into the mid-80s by Sunday and Monday.
And don't forget, our First Alert weather team is working around the clock to keep you up to date on the tropics, both on air and now on your favorite streaming platforms. Tune in later tonight for Live Tropics Now. It's the new digital show aimed at making sure you're up to speed on everything regarding the tropics. Jamie will be with you at 6:30 tonight on the WMBF News app, Facebook, Roku, Amazon, and Apple TV. In consumer news, TikTok's owner ByteDance is applying for a Chinese license to help close a U.S. deal. The move comes after TikTok confirmed the proposed deal with Oracle and Walmart, so the app can still operate in the U.S. The application also comes after China's Ministry of Commerce introduced a revised catalog of technologies prohibited and restricted from export last month. A Chinese official says the country continues to urge the United States to provide a, quote, open, fair, non-discriminatory and just environment for foreign companies operating in the U.S. United Airlines is set to become the first U.S. airline to offer coronavirus testing for passengers. Starting October 15th, the company will offer testing for customers flying from San Francisco to Hawaii. They'll use a rapid 15-minute test at the airport prior to security screening. A mail-in option to be completed in the days before departure will also be available. Hawaii currently requires any travelers to quarantine for 14 days after arrival, partnering with United's testing program. The governor says that requirement will be dropped for anyone with a negative test starting October 15th. Finland has deployed coronavirus sniffing dogs at its main international airport in a 4-month trial of an alternative testing method. 4 dogs trained by Finland's Smell Detection Association started working yesterday at the Helsinki airport as part of the government-funded trial. Passengers who agree to take the free test don't have direct contact with the dog. They're simply asked to swipe their skin with a wipe, which is then put into a jar and given to a dog waiting in a separate booth. It takes the dog just 10 seconds to sniff for the virus and give a result by scratching a paw, laying down, barking, or otherwise making itself known. If the result is positive, the passenger is then urged to take a standard test to check the dog's accuracy. Wow. The pandemic is driving many people to extremes. Extreme stress, extreme eating, and in some cases, extreme exercise. Haley Hernandez reports.
Empty grocery store shelves, quarantine 15 jokes, being encouraged to go out and exercise. These are part of our daily lives right now, and yet these innocent comments can trigger people with eating disorders to restrict themselves beyond what's healthy. In Rich Beckwith's case, it wasn't just restricting food, but prioritizing workouts to a point it made him sick.
I actually got diagnosed with the eating disorder. I had stage 2 kidney failure, stage 2 liver failure, and my heart was shrinking and tilting more to the side. If I kept going how I went, I probably would have had a massive heart attack within a month and I wouldn't be alive.
This was Rich before he was trying to deal with anxiety through exercise.
Running, compulsively running more, lifting weights, it just took off from there.
And took off to a point he was unrecognizable. But since exercise is a healthy hobby, he justified it and pushed harder.
4 miles a day, then it turned to 8 miles, and it turned to almost 15 and a half twice a week. And I was only eating at that time about 2,000 calories because I was so scared to gain weight again.
Now he says he's constantly working on balance. He sees a nutritionist and works with an eating recovery program, but admits the pandemic, where everyone is focused on staying healthy, is hard for him, and he's learned he's not alone.
As a male, it took me 8 years to get treatment. It took my wife, my family, everybody to say, hey, you need help because you're not doing what is healthy. Seek help, seek treatment, because you can get better and you don't want to suffer.
Good afternoon to you. I'm Eric Weisfeld. Here's a look at just some of the stories we're working on for you for your news at 5 o'clock. An officer-involved crash leads to shots fired. Hear more on the mayhem straight from the man who says the ruckus served as an unwanted wake-up call for him. Well, it's a huge problem in Horry County, and now more help is on the way. An organization looking to expand its services with the substance abuser in mind. Those stories, plus summer-like weather returns, but there's more in your certified, most accurate First Alert forecast. Prepare to get wet. Details when you join us for WMBF News at 5 o'clock.